Namaste and welcome back to the lecture series on the Basic Structure Doctrine, the soul of the Indian Constitution. I am Advocate Amod Bidhuri. Today we begin a journey into the most transformative cases in our nation's legal history. From Golaknath versus State of Punjab to Kesavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala. Imagine a moment when the very soul of our Constitution was under threat. Before the Basic Structure Doctrine existed, India's constitution was being subject to unchecked amendments, its fundamental rights and core values under siege. How did we fight back? How did a humble petition by a religious seer lead to a verdict that would forever protect our democracy? In today's lecture, we will explore the following. 1. The post-independence constitutional landscape and the rise of amendments after 1950. 2. The landmark Golaknath case of 1967 and its legacy in curtailing unlimited amendment power. 3. The explosive build-up to the Kesavananda Bharati case, the constitutional battle that captivated the nation. 4. A detailed analysis of the courtroom drama, including the intricacies of arguments, judge-wise opinions, and the dramatic 7:6 split judgment that established the Basic Structure Doctrine. 5. The dramatic social and political aftermath of this case. So fasten your seatbelts as we step into a courtroom where history was made and the future of our constitution was secured. After independence in 1947, our nation adopted the constitution in 1950 with the hope that it would serve as an unchanging beacon of democracy, justice and equality. Yet, as a young nation grappled with immense social and economic challenges, the Parliament saw the need to amend the Constitution repeatedly to address these issues. Amendments were passed to promote land reforms, boost social justice, and restructure governance. However, each amendment, particularly those that curtailed fundamental rights, raised serious questions. Were these changes enhancing our democratic vision, or were they slowly eroding the very foundation of our rights? Over time, these constitutional amendments begin to create a tension, a tug of war between the desire of Parliament to implement reforms and the need to protect the spirit and structure of the Constitution itself. And this growing conflict would ultimately lead to two crucial cases that shook India's legal and political landscape: Golaknath and Kesavananda Bharati cases. In 1967, the Golaknath family, owners of extensive agriculture property in Punjab, challenged the Punjab Security and Land Tenure Act. Their argument was simple yet powerful. The act, by curtailing their property rights, violated their fundamental rights enshrined in our constitution. The Supreme Court, in a 6:5 verdict, ruled that Parliament could not amend or abrogate fundamental rights. This decision shocked political leaders and raised the question: if Parliament cannot alter even the basic rights of the citizens, what limits should there be on its amending power? The Golaknath verdict became a lightning rod. It represented a bold assertion by the judiciary that certain core rights were sacrosanct. Its legacy was mixed. While it galvanized public opinion for the protection of rights, it also forced Parliament to rethink its amendment strategy. But Golaknath was only a precursor. It set in motion a constitutional debate that would culminate in the Kesavananda Bharati case. The fundamental question remained: should there be a limit to what Parliament can change? In a sense, could the very soul of the Constitution be amended away? Parliament, aghast at the restrictions placed by the Golaknath verdict, moved swiftly. It introduced a series of amendments, the 24th and 25th Amendments, which aimed to restore its power to amend even the fundamental rights. The government's argument was that the sovereignty of the people, as exercised by elected representatives, should be absolute. This counter-move ignited further debates. The legislature claimed that if the people had given Parliament the power to amend the Constitution, then it must be allowed to do so without interference. However, critics maintained that such power could undermine the very essence of our democratic values. Showdown between parliamentary sovereignty and judicial review, between popular mandate and constitutional morality, set the stage for what would become the most dramatic case of our history. In 1970, a seemingly simple land dispute took a dramatic turn. Swami Kesavananda Bharati, the revered head of the Adnir Mutt in Kerala, found himself at the center of the legal storm. The state of Kerala had passed laws to acquire the mutt's property as part of its land reform efforts. Kesavananda Bharati filed a writ petition under Article 32, arguing that the acquisition was unconstitutional, not merely because it affected property rights, but because it threatened the very autonomy and identity of a religious institution. This single petition evolved into a constitutional battle. The case was referred to a bench of 13 judges, the largest ever assembled in a Supreme Court. For 68 ruling days, the courtroom became a battlefield of ideas where lawyers and judges debated not just the fate of Kesavananda Bharati's land, but the extent of Parliament's power itself. On the petitioner side stood legendary advocates such as Nani Palkiwala, M.C. Sitalwad and Soli Sorabji, who argued that while Parliament had the power to amend, it must not be allowed to enter the basic, essential structure of the Constitution, its very soul. They contended that if this basic structure were not sacrosanct, Parliament could in theory abolish democracy, secularism or judicial review by a simple majority vote. On the other side, the government's legal team led by Attorney General Niren De argued vehemently that the will of the people, as expressed through Parliament, was supreme. They claimed that any limitations on Parliament's power would amount to judicial overreach by unelected judges. In the midst of these passionate arguments, every witness, every piece of evidence, every legal principle was scrutinized. The atmosphere in the courtroom was electric. It was as if the very future of the Indian Constitution hung in the balance. And then came the turning point. After months of exhausted debate, the bench reached a decision that would reverberate through the corridors of the history. On April 24, 1973, the Supreme Court delivered its historic verdict in 7-6 decision. The majority held that while Parliament could amend any part of its constitution, it could not alter its basic structure. This narrow majority is a stark reminder that our constitutional journey was never settled by a landslide. It was fought over by ideas, principles, and a deep-seated belief in the immutable nature of our core values. Justice H.R. Khanna, in his memorable opinion, declared, "The power to amend, if it destroys the basic structure, is no power at all." This statement became the very bedrock of what we now call the Basic Structure Doctrine. Imagine the implications. Regardless of how many times Parliament amends the Constitution, there exists an unalterable core, a safeguard ensuring that democracy, secularism, and the fundamental rights of the citizen are perpetually protected. The impact of Kesavananda Bharati judgment was immediate and far-reaching. It resonated not only in the hallowed halls of the Supreme Court, but also throughout the entire nation. For the legal community, it was a clarion call, a message that no government, no matter how powerful, could override the basic values enshrined in our constitution. For politicians, it was both a check and a challenge, reminding them that the constitution is not a document to be rewritten at whim, but a living covenant that must be respected. This judgment also triggered intense public debates across the country. Newspapers, television, and debates and campus discussions were abuzz with the implications of this doctrine. It became a symbol of resistance against unchecked majority power, a promise that our democracy would not be sacrificed on the altar of political expediency. Decades have passed since the pivotal movement, yet the legacy of Kesavananda Bharati continues to influence our constitutional jurisprudence. From the debates during the emergency to modern cases like the NJAC judgment and the discussions over fundamental rights, this doctrine remains the guardian of our democratic ideals. It is a living testament to the resilience of our constitution, a marker that even in the face of relentless political pressures, the core values of justice, liberty, and equality must endure. Every time the government attempts to push through an amendment, or every time there is a threat to the independence of our institutions, the Basic Structure Doctrine emerges once more as a beacon of hope and assurance for citizens, lawyers, and judges alike. As we conclude this session on the case that changed India forever, remember that this isn't just history. It's the reason our democracy stands resilient today. We have seen how a humble petition transformed into a constitutional revolution, a battle that still echoes in every courtroom and every public debate about our rights. This journey from Golaknath to Kesavananda Bharati is a constant reminder that our constitution, though evolving, has a soul that cannot be tampered with by transient majorities. Thank you for joining me in this deep exploration of our constitutional journey. If you found this lecture insightful, please like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to hit the bell icon so you are notified about our upcoming episodes. Until then, stay informed, question boldly, and remember that the strength of our democracy lies in the inviolable spirit of our constitution. Jai Hind. This is Amod Bidhuri, and we will meet again in the next hearing.